Hi, welcome to the descriptive writing lesson for the 5th of October 2020. Just before we start, I told the learners how to access all the other lessons on their ALO software. Go to Groups, find your English group for your course, go to Pages, and these are the pages that I have produced, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, which was where this video is going to go. November reset videos, a link to my YouTube channel, and technical accuracy video. November reset students need to look in the last 3 pages in order to fulfill their November reset revision. The objectives today are to use descriptive techniques, so identify them and actually use them in some writing. So we talked about which techniques we already learnt about. Metaphors, similes, nouns, verbs, adjectives and adverbs, which form the semantic field of a piece of writing. Personification, alliteration, imagery and onomatopoeia. So we looked at the definitions of what all of these things were. And then we looked at some examples. Metaphor, his tree trunk legs. Simile, his legs felt like tree trunks. A noun, mud. Verb, squirm. Adjective, slimy. Adverb, wetly. Personification, the swallowing mud, because swallowing is a human activity. Alliteration, squirting, squelching ooze. Using sibilants, which is S and sh sounds. Imagery, the drooping green weeds hung like, sorry that's just hidden behind my face, but you'll be able to see it once I remove my face to another part of the page. And onomatopoeia sounds like what it's describing, for example, splosh. Okay, so we're going to write a factual and creative description based on this picture of a swamp with a flooded boardwalk. What's the difference between a factual and a creative description? It's the linguistic techniques. Here's a factual description without linguistic techniques. The wooden boardwalk crossed the swamp from north to south, starting and finishing on the valley sides, and it ran over where water plants grew, surrounded by fish and amphibians. The sun shone in patches through the tall trees above. This gave an irregular pattern of light on the forest floor, where dragonflies gathered to meet. The buzzing of insects could be heard for the length of the path. The only technique to be found in there is this little bit of alliteration, sibilants. There's nothing else like adjectives, similes, metaphors to make you engage more with the text. It's very factual. Compare that with this, which is more creative. The creaking wooden board crossed the swamp like a snake, starting and finishing on the firm forest floor, and it crossed the shallow valley where reeds and rushes grew, surrounded by frolicking fish and frogs. The daisy sun shone in blazing patches through the tall, sinuous trees above. Splashes of light landed on the forest floor where dragonflies met and mated. The buzzing of insects, determined woodsaws, could be heard all the way to the other side of the valley. So we have an adjective, a simile like a snake, alliteration with the repetition of F sounds, another adjective, more alliteration and more alliteration. We have a metaphor here, the daisy sun, blazing, which is a powerful adjective, sinuous, which means bendy or S-shaped. Splashes of light, which is another metaphor because light doesn't splash. We have some alliteration, met and mated. Determined, which is a powerful adjective, and woodsaws, which is a metaphor. The insects aren't woodsaws, but they're portrayed as woodsaws because of the noise that they're making. So, what was different in the creative description? Metaphor, simile, powerful nouns and verbs, imagery, alliteration, including sibilants, personification, and the semantic field of a swamp. This is a picture of the Bride waterfall, which comes into a task later in the lesson. So what's the difference between factual and creative description? Factual gives facts and creative uses the senses. What are the senses? Hearing, tasting, seeing, feeling, smelling, and emotions. Very important, because that's the main way to engage your reader, is to arouse their emotions when they're reading your work. So you need to describe how things look, smell, taste, feel, and sound, and how the story makes you feel or makes the reader feel emotionally. So the title was Describing, date 5th of October 2020, and you need to describe how things look. Describe a waterfall. Smell, describe a bonfire. Taste, describe a bowl of ice cream. Feel, describe falling over in the rain. Sound, describe a football match. Make the person in the story, or you, how do they make them feel emotionally? We didn't quite get onto that one, but we have some nice contributions, which you will see in a second, for different parts of the task. So we have some contributions for waterfall, bonfire, and bowl of ice cream. And these are the techniques that I asked the students to use. So back to the Bride waterfall. The first task was describe how a waterfall looks. So I put this picture up, and here is the first piece of work that I received today. We have some alliteration, we have more alliteration at the end, and in the middle we have a lovely simile. A charming crystal clear waterfall stood in front of me, flowing as if it was motionless, leaving a remarkable rainbow in the sky above. Quickly moving on to the next piece of work. The spring breeze smiled, we have some personification, upon the water as it glistened in the sun, trickling down endlessly. The crystal clear water sparkled like a star in the night sky. So we have some alliteration again, and we have a nice simile, sparkled like a star. We have a great metaphor here. The peaceful waters were a flowing sea of stars twinkling in the moonlight. Very beautiful metaphor. Here we have some more work on the waterfall. The waterfall was singing softly, drawing me closer. The waterfall was like a diver reaching for the waters that await it. So we have some personification, reaching. The sparkling waterfall was scenic. As I swiftly possibly strode, along the path, looking over my right shoulder, a glistening crystal-like waterfall gracefully falls, smashing against the rocks. As it reaches the bottom of the clear lake, we have a nice powerful verb there, smashing. The sun shone down on the waterfall, creating small spots of sparkly light as a rainbow forms, smiling as it spreads across the sky. A nice piece of personification. The water majestically fell down onto the earth with white patterns like contrails, which I learnt are the steam or smoke or vapour trails from an aeroplane. The green moss grew on the cliff around it like an intrusive anomaly. Fantastic. Wonderful simile. The bonfire let off a charred aura, enticing even the least curious of people. And if one was lucky enough, they could even have the sweet smell of melted marshmallows. And then ice cream. When it went into their mouth, they were bombarded with a cluster of different tastes. The graceful, glistening waterfall fell over the rugged rocks. Some nice alliteration there. The smoky smell of the woody bonfire runs in all directions, leading people towards it. It's a great imagery. You can see the smoke filtering out in spider legs to reach the people nearby. The ice-cold ice cream was an explosion of taste with a freezing flavour. Just can't quite see the word in the corner, sorry, while I'm recording. So we have a nice metaphor of exploding taste. Okay, we finished here. We didn't quite